Don't preach it.
Take photos.
And we're up.
Wow, look at it. It's a real steaming. Look at it. At the front, you can see it steaming. So, take a photo.
We drove here, so that's
Alright, if you look to the left of the locomotive, you're going to see a spur track. Most of that equipment on the spur track, along with the two steam locomotives we operate here and the cars you are riding on. All these were purchased from the West Side Lumber Company of Tuolumne, California, 100 miles to the north of us. The West Side was still logging with steam locomotives until the early 1960s.
Yes.
The Madera Sugar Pine Company was one of the largest, most profitable lumber companies up here. And they operated from 1899 to 1931 when they voluntarily closed down their operations. When they did close down, they scrapped all of their equipment, including the track. So we brought all this equipment down here from the West Side Lumber Company, put it back into service, and we did relay the track on an old road bed that was used by the Madera Sugar Pine Company. This road bed they used from 1908 to 1924. At the end of August of 2017, we did have a fire start on the upside of the 41 there, on the side of the 41. Burned a little bit down here, then up 41 and across the canyon. Because of proximity to the railroad, they called the railroad fire. Thanks to the employees working that day, putting out spot fires, and the firefighters coming up as soon as they did, we still have a business to be able to share with you. If you look to the left side of the locomotive, you're going to see a power pole. At that point, or a little past that point, you look across the canyon, the highest and furthest mountain you see is Raymond Mountain. Raymond Mountain is an elevation of 8,500 feet. At one time, they were logging halfway up Raymond Mountain, bringing all that timber down to the canyon below us into the middle side at Sugar Pine. Logging first began up here in the Southern Sierras in 1874 with the California Lumber Company. And for nearly 60 years, trees were cut down without any other trees being replanted. They sure cut close to 30,000 acres of trees through here. So the trees you're looking at are a result of a natural reseeding from the very few trees left standing once they had finished logging. So it makes it a very young forest. The oldest tree that we'll see in our forest as we go through it today, 115 years old. We are going to see several types of trees as we go through the forest. First tree I'd like to mention is the California black oak. This tree has a flat ring leaf very similar to a maple leaf. The Native Americans, they would gather the acorn from the black oak, grind them up, soak them in the stream to remove the bitter tannic acid. Once dried, it was a major source of protein for them. Another tree you'll find growing up here is the incense cedar tree. This is a tree with a reddish-brown bark. It does have a segmented type of leaf, but no needles. The larger cedar trees look very similar to a California redwood tree. And then you also have the white fir growing at this elevation. White fir has straight, even-layered branches that stick straight out and 1-inch needles. The white fir is related to the red front Douglas fir that do grow at higher elevations, but you might recognize that tree as a Christmas tree. This section of track we are entering into right now is called Horseshoe Curve. In 1908, the Chinese labor force started digging this entire curve up by hand with just picks and shovels. They did have a few teams of horses and mules with carts and wagons to haul some of the dirt out, but they hauled most of the dirt out by hand in a wheelbarrow. If you want to get an idea how much work was involved in that project, all of the dirt that you're going to see piled up on the inside of this curve is what they had to move out to make room for the roadbed we are traveling on. Also, as we go through Horseshoe Curve, we have the foxglove that are blooming right now. As we go through the rest of the forest, you see quite a bit of it. Foxglove is a bell-shaped flower, usually purple, pinkish, maybe some of them are white. The purple ones, I know they make a heart medicine digitalis out of. So just enjoy them, they're really blooming right now. There are two main types of pine trees that grow at this elevation. Those are the ponderosa pine and the sugar pine tree. And there's a couple ways to tell those two trees apart. One way is by the length of the needles. Ponderosa pine has needles that grow 8 to 10 inches long, while the sugar pine needles grow 2 to 3 inches. Another way to tell those two trees apart is how the needles grow on the trees. They grow in clusters. Ponderosa pine has 3 needles attached to a cluster, while the sugar pine has 5. The sugar pine tree also grows the largest pine cone in the world. These pine cones can range anywhere from 10 to 26 inches in length, and while the cone is still green and full of sap, so the larger cones have been known to weigh up to about 4 pounds. As we're going through the forest and you're looking up at some of the tall pine trees, you're going to see some pine cones hanging down on the ends of the branches like Christmas ornaments. Those are the sugar pine cones. They always hang down on the ends of the branches of the sugar pine tree. We'll see several as we go through the forest today. Also, you each had a sugar pine cone on your dinner table tonight. The Madera Sugar Pine Company had 5 wood-burning Shay locomotives for their logging business. This is the same type of locomotive which we are operating today, with the only exception, ours burns oil rather than wood. This is not your typical type of locomotive as you might expect. What I mean by that, it is not side rod driven. The Shays were the most popular of all the gear-driven locomotives. Built for very steep grades and tight curves, this locomotive was right at home working up here in the woods. The Shay was invented by a Michigan lumberman named Ephraim Shay. In 1880, the Lima Locomotive Works of Lima, Ohio, acquired the patent from Mr. Shay, and in 1880 they started to build the first Shay locomotive. The engine for this locomotive they mounted on the right side. And on that right side you're going to see 3 vertically mounted pistons. So they had to move the boiler a little left to the left side to counterbalance the weight of the engine. So if you're standing in front of a Shay looking at the engine, it does have a rather off-balance appearance. All the wheels underneath this locomotive are driven, so it's basically 12-wheel drive. The Shays were not built for speed. Top speed is about 18 miles per hour. At number 15 up there, she was built in 1913. That makes her 111 years old. She weighs in just under 59 tons. At the completion of our 4-mile round trip today, number 15 will use approximately 40 gallons of recycled motor oil to heat up the water, and approximately 450 gallons of water. We are riding on narrow gauge track. Narrow gauge is 36 inches between the rails, compared to standard gauge railroad, which are 56.5 inches. The Madera Sugar Pine Company had about 140 miles of this narrow gauge track for their logging business, but they only used 15 to 25 miles of that track at a time. That's because when the track did leave the Vale of Sugar Pine, it went off in different directions, like spokes on a wheel. So when they would finish logging in one direction, they would pick up the track, relay it off in a different direction, and continue logging. The roadbed you see to the right of us on the downhill side, this is one of the last rail lines used by the Madera Sugar Pine Company. This roadbed went all the way up to Chilla Mountain. They used this roadbed from 1927 to 1931. The Forest Service now uses this road. In fact, that's what happened most of the abandoned road lines for the logging business is. There are no access roads for the U.S. Forest Service. Also, you guys see all these piles of logs and branches and debris. Forest Service cleaning up the forest floor. And in the winter time, they're going to be burning some of these piles. They already started this last winter. They'll be burning them a lot more of them in the winters to come. Get rid of all the debris and make the forest a safer place. We are going to be crossing this road in just a moment. And like any train does, when you cross the road, 15 is going to be ringing his bell and blowing his whistle. So we are going to be curving a little bit to the right now, so get your cameras out for a video or a picture. And then we curve to the right, you're going to see the pistons on the right side of the locomotive going up and down. This is turning the drivetrain and the wheels. In just a moment, you're going to hear the whistle blow and the bell ring. Okay, up ahead by number 15, you're going to see some green ground cover on either side of the track. That green ground cover is called bear clover. From about the middle of May to the end of June, it does produce a small white flower. The loggers, they gave bear clover a different name. They called it mountain misery because of the smell that came off, the pungent smell, and the oily substance that stuck to their clothing when they walked through it. They do a couple of washings to get out of the coveralls. The Native Americans, they brewed a tea from the leaves of the bear clover. This tea would help them cure headaches, reduce fever, take care of general aches and pains. We now know this plant contains a lot of acetylsalicylic acid, which is the main active ingredient in aspirin. Coming up to the right of the locomotive, right up next to the track, we're going to pass a couple of bushes with smooth maroon bark. Those are called manzanita. Manzanita is Spanish for little apple. In the fall, the manzanita does produce a small berry. Native Americans, they would pick this berry and make a cider drink from it. It's also a good food source for the mule deer, black bear, and Sasquatch that do live up here. The Madera Sugar Pine Company employed a workforce of 800 men at one time. And these men, with just the use of axes and cross-cut saws they call misery whips, could cut about 80 stack cars of timber a day. In that 32-year span of the Madera Sugar Pine Company, they cut 1.5 billion more feet of lumber. If you would take all that lumber and lay it end to end, it would go around the world more than 10 times. As you can imagine, the work was hard and the days were long. Laborers could expect to work 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, earn 10 cents an hour plus room and board. Skilled laborers such as engineers and carpenters, they made a whopping 30 cents an hour, which is still the going rate on our train today. The lumberjacks, though, they got paid by the tree. So the more trees those lumberjacks cut down and the bigger the tree was, the more money they earned. Once those lumberjacks did cut down those trees, they used a donkey engine, which is a steam-powered winch. They skidded the trees over to where the flat cars were attached to the train. They got those trees on the flat cars, and then the train was off to the mill at Sugar Pine. And those Sugar Pine was only about 1.5 miles from here. Once the train did reach the mill at Sugar Pine, they dropped those trees into a log pond. Those trees were then stripped of their bark and given a very rough cut. All that rough cut lumber was then placed in bundles of 12 to 14 inches high. Then they put a metal clamp on each end of the bundle to hold it together. Then they put or dropped the bundle into a flume. A flume is a V-shaped wooden trough with water running through it. Elevated up on trestles and fed by gravity, the flume left the mill at Sugar Pine, followed the Fresno River all the way down to the San Joaquin Valley floor into the town of Madera. A total of 54 miles. At one time, it's the largest wooden structure in the world. Construction of that flume took 2 years. So before the flume was completed, they were hauling the lumber down on dirt roads with cars and oxen. That trip to Madera took 2.5 days. But once they finally did finish the flume, it only took that lumber 12 hours to get all the way down to Madera from up here. Stationed along that flume every few miles were employees they called flume herders. Their job was to keep track of that rough cut lumber as it did go down the flume. If they did encounter a problem, such as a log jam or lumber jam, they get word back to the mill to stop all shipments till they could get that problem fixed. Once all that rough cut lumber did reach Madera, they were then taken to a second planing mill, a finishing mill, and given its final cut. All that finished lumber was then loaded onto the Southern Pacific Railroad and shipped to a worldwide market. The water that did come off the flume they sold to the farmers for irrigation. The logging company did not offer their employees any benefits, but they did offer them a very unique form of transportation by way of a flume boat. The flume boat was nothing more than a couple scrapings of the lumber nailed together. There were no handholds or handrails. The only drawback with the flume boat is that the grade on the flume was so steep at the depth of Sugar Pine that that boat could get up to speeds of 50 miles an hour. What a ride. There's a river going down around the logging camps many years ago that a lumberjack got hurt while falling a tree. So he got him on the train back to the mill at Sugar Pine. Then they put him on a flume boat to get down to Madera for some medical attention. I hear he made it okay, especially since he was accompanied by someone named Jack Daniels. We are entering into Lewis Creek Canyon. Lewis Creek was one of the 5 sources of water used by the mill at Sugar Pine. We are going to be climbing up a 9% grade as we go into our day's picnic area. For your entertainment, we'll continue around the campfire with Sugar Pine. Halfway up, we will cross over the West Fork of Lewis Creek. So far, our bid number 15 has been a very quiet engine because we've been going downhill this whole time. As we do start up that 9% grade, you're going to notice how much harder 15 is working. The engine is going to be demanding more steam, and the fireman is going to be working frantically to keep up with them. Also in the creek up here, you're going to see a couple of hippopotamuses. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Wrong ride. I thought this was the happiest place on earth. But do notice how much harder 50's working. The exhaust sticker is going to change. And those of you in the front, those of you in the front, we get halfway up. Another good shot for a picture or video because 50's chugging up the hill. I'll be blowing its whistle. I gave you a 10-second heads up when it happens. now, that 15's going to be blowing his whistle for the mission of the front. You get a good picture of it. Look at all these fox come through here too. A lot of fox in this area. All right, we are in the Sierra National Forest. Of course, there's going to be a lot of fun things here, interesting things. Pats, flowers, rock assist, pine calls. We call them leave them right, because you have to leave them right there for the next person to enjoy. Okay, please wait for the train to come to a full stop. Once it comes to a full stop, feel free to follow the sugar pine down to the campfire. Those of you in the back, it's easier to walk up towards the locomotive before walking down to the campfire. Please wait for the train to come to a stop before standing up. Thank you. Okay, please watch your step. Enjoy the campfire sugar pine.
Tracy, we're camping for tonight.
You have to hike back.
Yeah, did you bring your clothes?
Are you ready?
It's all night.